And go.
In every sport, the ultimate goal is to gain as many advantages over your competitor as possible. There's many both legal and illegal ways that this can be done, especially in today's culture with technology being such a big deal. My name is Noah Key, and I'm going to discuss why technology in the sport of swimming has very much positively affected it. And this is going to be broken down into three parts because there are three parts to every swimming race. There is the actual in the water racing, there is the preparation, which is the training, and then there's also the uncontrollables, which is the pool you're racing in and other things of that nature. So I'm going to start with in the race. So the most important factor in the race is what you are wearing, because at that point there's nothing else you can change. Your training is done, you are there to race. So in swimming, many swimmers, especially at larger competitions, will wear tech suits. So these suits are usually made of polyurethane or nylon or other polymers, and their purpose is to both repel water, provide compression, and anything else that could help a swimmer gain an advantage. So these suits are actually pretty new within the last 20 years, and they first came out in 2008. Speedo worked with NASA to create the laser suit, and with NASA they were able to, this is according to NASA on their website, they used advanced analysis and testing, and they used computational fluid analysis to ultimately come up with these suits here on the left. And while wearing these suits at the 2008 Olympics in Beijing, 13 world records were broken. So there's two reasons why these suits were so fast. So they are made of polyurethane, which is completely waterproof and will repel water. Additionally, because of this, they can hold air inside, which allows swimmers to get higher on the surface of the water and be more buoyant. Ultimately, they were banned because FINA, which is the World Governing Organization for Swimming, decided that they provided too much of an advantage. So we moved back to these suits, which are the today's current models, which the rules that FINA made, they have to be woven and they can't be completely waterproof. So now today's models do not trap air inside, and they still repel water, but not as well as the older suits. So you might think that the suit or the records broken in this suits may never fall, but that actually is not the case. So although these suits were unfair at the time, swimming has continued to evolve, and we've gotten past it, and there's very few records left from that era. So I.J. Zuzin, a professor at the Lithuanian Academy of Physical Education, he did a statistical analysis to really see how much of an effect these suits had on the sport of swimming in 2008. And he did a statistical analysis of the times and the time drops before 2008, and then the times and the time drops after 2008. So before 2008, the times continued dropping at a pretty steadily rate as world records were broken and whatnot. And then at 2008, there was a large jump where many times dropped. And then after that, it took about 2010 for the sport of swimming to catch back up to its original pace. And now we are back on that same curve as we were prior to 2008. So the next aspect of swimming that I'm going to talk about is the training. So a lot goes into training. So one of the most important aspects of training, or two most important aspects of training, are good technique and good strength. So Sean Cowell, a student from the University of Arizona, or Arizona State University School of Nutrition and Health Promotion, did a study, and he wanted to prove that strength was actually important to swimming. Like, it wasn't just technique, that strength had a major role. So he tested many swimmers on their pull-ups, their weight pull-ups. So they attached weight belts and how much weight could a swimmer pull up, and then he also had them swim a 50-yard freestyle and correlated those two numbers, and he found a very direct correlation in well-trained swimmers. So that proved that strength training in swimming is actually very important, and since then many teams have shifted more from spending all of their time under the water to now a lot of time is split between the weight room and the water. So some training aids that have come along as a result of this is the Total Performance Company, which is a company out of Kenyon College. It's actually created by the swim coach of Kenyon College. And they make power racks and power towers, which are essentially weighted pulleys that you attach the hip belt, you can swim across the water, and you can even find those here at Mount Union. The other thing is good technique. So good technique plays in very importantly, and prior to about the late 90s, early 2000s, we didn't have the computational power to really do like a dynamic fluid analysis on a computer of what is the ideal swimming technique. But since then, we've been able to upload models and do computational fluid analysis and determine how many benefits can you get from good technique. And Timothy Y, he posted an article in the annual review of fluid dynamics, studying the fluid dynamics of competitive swimming. And through this, he was able to make a lot of advances in the proper technique to swim more powerfully and effectively for a longer period of time. One of the most notable advances is when you were winning swim lessons, they may have told you to close all your fingers. That's actually not true. To get the most power out of it, you want slight separation in your fingers, because that slight separation, the water will you'll be able to pull more water, and the losses of the water going between your fingers is very minor. So that was one of the largest things to come out of that in the recent years. Additionally, I have two other training aids that are pretty recent. We have the pace clock, which is crucial for everyday practice. It can give you send-off times, pace times, so that you can see that you are working on good intervals. And then the tempo trainer, so that will beep in your ear and make sure that you are maintaining your stroke rate throughout a race or kick rate during practice. You can't use either of these items in a race, but they are very good to train so that your muscles are used to it. So the final aspect is the most uncontrollable aspect for individual swimmers, but it is one that makes a huge difference. So there's many features that go into making a fast pool, but ultimately in an article in SwimSlam where they worked with Councilman Hunsaker, which is an aquatic facility consultant. SwimSlam is a swimming magazine primarily, and they worked to determine what aspect, if you could pick one aspect of a pool that makes it the fastest, what would that be? And they looked at many different factors like blocks, lane lines, everything that they could think of, and ultimately it came down to which pool can reduce waves the most. So if one swimmer is swimming, how can they prevent waves from affecting another swimmer's race, pushing them backwards, moving them left and right, and all that. And that is the most important thing for creating a fast pool. So there's a lot of ways this can be done. If you notice in big meets like Olympics or NCAA championships, you'll notice a lot of the lane lines, there's actually 2 lane lines between each lane, and that just helps the lane lines work to absorb the waves. They'll have low gutters on the sides so that the waves just splash over out of the pool and don't rebound off of that. They'll also be very deep so that the waves rebounding off the bottom don't come back up and affect the swimmer. Additionally, the circulation in the pool, the filtering system, is turned down for big competitions. So those are some ways that a pool can be fast. In an article in Sports Illustrated, Dr. Tom Taylor, who has a PhD in aeronautics and astronautics, he looked at the effects of circulation, wall types, and gutters, and how they affect fast swimmers. And he found in Rio that the pool was very fast. The only major problem with it was the 2 ends. It had very high walls, and so coming into and out of a wall, if you weren't the first swimmer coming into the wall, you were likely to get the wave of everyone else. So if you're behind, you're now more behind, which was unfortunate, but it ultimately didn't make that much of an effect on the race. So a lot goes into putting together a good race, but ultimately technology's goal is to minimize the uncontrollable and interference with the outside world to help the athlete perform at the most elite level possible. And it allows us as humans to approach our ultimate potential in the water. Thank you.